This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details. Just in case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barreiro's Top 5 at 5. Brought to you by Gutter Helmet of Minnesota. Never clean your gutters again. Learn more at gutterhelmetmn.com.
All right, let's play.
We'll start things with the team actually playing tonight. That is your Minnesota Timberwolves. They're 1-0. Anthony Edwards, impressive performance, at least point-scoring wise, in the first game against the Blazers. 41 points off the top of my head. They get the Lakers in L.A. It's a late game. You'll hear it right here on the fan. Your early temperature on the Wolves.
I don't have much. To be honest, part of the reason I don't is all the action in the NBA has been overshadowed by the federal investigation, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's made it difficult to concentrate on what's been he had, obviously, Anthony Edwards, a terrific opening night performance. A lot of questions because of what ultimately the head coach chose to do in the fourth quarter. He didn't go with DiVincenzo, who he moved into the starting lineup. He didn't go with Conley. He ends up going with Bones Highland. So is that just matchup? Is that size? Is there something more to it? Because that's the open question, right? Where is the point guard search going at this point? How is the thing going to play out? Edwards looked every bit the part, obviously, in a terrific game. Although, again, that's a team you're supposed to beat, even if Portland's a little bit improved. So let me see a little bit more before I either jump off the bandwagon, call for a coach's head, or anything else. And that's, as you said, tonight. National TV game against the Los Angeles Lakers of Anaheim.
And you hear it right here on the fan.
The best part.
We'll go here.
Time now for the obligatory Kevin Fallness Minnesota Wild mention.
Have I gotten a text that I led with the Wolves instead of the Wild? Yes, I have. We'll go here.
It wasn't a sellout tonight at Prudential Center, but those that are still here, salute their side. Devils have won 6 in a row overall since dropping their opener to the Carolina Hurricanes. They're now 6-1-0 on the season. They won both games against the Wild last year. This one somewhat convincing as New Jersey prevails over Minnesota, a 4-1 final at Prudential Center.
Well, you get home cooking tomorrow night against the Mammoth, the first time the Wild play the Mammoth, while they're called the Mammoth. But the road trip was less than successful. The Wild are kind of reeling right now, and it's not a pretty sight when they're not in it for most of the game.
Well, you tell me, because there is a bigger sample size with the Wild thus far, clearly. It certainly didn't look to me like the road trip was anything close to... How many points did we get on the trip? 3?
I think so.
Ended up with 3 points, right? Out of 10 potential? That's not good, even though I know we're on the road.
Well, let's see. So they go...
Didn't we win and get a tie? We have 1 win and a tie, don't we?
So they lose to the Stars, lose to the Capitals, lose in overtime to the Flyers.
That's 1.
Beat the Rangers.
3.
And then lose to the Devils.
Yeah, that's not a lot of... That's not maximizing. That's not even coming close to maximizing. Well, you tell me. What are your early returns? What do you like? What are you worried about already?
It feels like, and I don't know if it's an early season thing, it just felt like when I was watching, especially the Devils game, felt like the mojo and the kind of sense of urgency and winning the 50-50 puck battles and all the cliches just weren't there really until midway through the third when they started kicking into overdrive. Looking at the lines right now, I mean, they're certainly interesting. They're updated today. X entering Kaprizov and Boldy. That's fine. Rossi with Johansson, Tarasenko. We'll see how that goes. But then you've got Ben Jones covering with Yurov and Hinostroza on the fourth line. So you've got some... your Nico Sturm is still out. Your Zuccarello is still out. But those injuries aren't nearly enough to be playing as bad as they are right now.
Yeah, and so is this a long homestand now? It is, isn't it? Isn't it like 5 or 6 in a row on our end now?
Let's see. I believe so. So it's Mammoth at home, Sharks at home, Jets at home, Penguins at home, Canucks at home, Predators at home before they go to Carolina November 6th.
That's a 6-game homestand, if I'm doing my math right, and I really
believe
am. So there you go. So now the pressure's on a little bit, right? That you're going to have to take advantage of that opportunity. Are you where are you on Yurov? You intrigued by what he might represent? Are you bored with him? What do you think?
This will shock you. I want to see him elevated and just see what happens.
Yeah, no,
I think the confidence has been growing.
Louis with you. Louis says, look, you gotta and even if it means screw ups, you gotta give some of these guys a chance. The hard part for this team, again, it's sort of like with the Vikings. The pressure is on to win in the postseason because it's been so long. And it really makes it hard, I think, for coaches who have to think about their jobs and their circumstance, even general managers, to try to successfully thread that needle. But ultimately, they're going to have to do exactly what you suggest.
And 9 times out of 10 when it comes to a young player coming into the team, they go this route where they stick them on the fourth line.
Right.
Very limited role. Get in, get out, get off the ice, and get our first line back out there. The rare exceptions being a Boldy or a Kaprizov or a Brock Faber. But most of the time, guys that you like Beckman, who wasn't any good.
Yeah.
But just some of the young guys you want, an Ogren, they stick them on that type of line.
Yeah, we'll see. When do we play next?
We play tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
The Mammoth
Matinee?
at home. I believe
night?
it's a night game. It's a 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock start on a
5 o'clock.
on a
Well,
Saturday.
interesting
Okay,
one.
interesting. So opposite the Ghosts.
Yeah.
Ghosts are 2:30, I think, in Iowa City, if I'm
So I
not
believe
mistaken.
Wild on Cool.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
That explains it.
World Series, have any interest at all? Dodgers?
I should.
It's a matter of time for the Dodgers,
I
right?
should, because the postseason's been compelling stuff, but I admit I feel so separated and, just out of the mix because of the Twins that I don't feel a kinship to this to the degree that I do. And I know everybody's assuming it's going to be the Dodgers. I don't know. Maybe it will be the Dodgers. But both these teams have had really interesting, compelling, especially on the AL side, Blue Jays, compelling runs. The Dodgers have been dominant, obviously, starting with their slugger pitcher. That story, it doesn't get any better, as we talked about with Luigi, a guy who's able to pitch 6 innings and hit 3 home runs, one of them a tape measure out of Dodger Stadium. And that's a long way if you've ever been to Dodger Stadium.
I've watched one postseason baseball game this year, and that was the game where Shohei just went yard and just dominated on the mound. And I had some very disappointed relatives who are Brewers fans that were not happy about that. There you have it.
That'll work for me. Lavelle at the bottom of the hour. Let's get to another Vikings talking point and a couple of fascinating, tantalizing texts when we return.
Mark your calendars. Boston punk legends Dropkick Murphys are set to hit the Palace Theater March 6th. Don't miss out. Tickets on sale now. Full details, KFAN.com. Keyword calendar.
I got another Vikings talking point I want to get to here in just a minute. A couple people have brought to my attention the latest Pablo Torre scoop, I guess one could say. We quoted heavily from him because of what he had uncovered regarding that 77-item list that allegedly the Glenn Taylor side had put together to try to discourage the arbitrators from ruling in favor of Lori and A-Rod. Some of it rather embarrassing stuff. Well, he's back with another Minnesota angle. According to Pablo Torre, a number of former pro athletes played at private poker games organized by those indicted by the Department of Justice in Operation Royal Flush. We spent a lot of time on this yesterday. One of them, according to multiple sources with direct knowledge of a game that took place in 2019, was Kevin Garnett. I know no details beyond that. I don't know if Garnett has responded. And as we've talked about yesterday, the average rube, I'm thinking, is saying, I don't care about, I just assume that people with that kind of money play these high stakes poker games. What changed the story for me yesterday was the rest of the story pertaining to those poker games, as it pertains to Chauncey Billups, that those games were rigged events. And I did have a chance to read a little bit more closely overnight. The DOJ is alleging that all of the named participants, because Billups was considered one of the attractions to get basically the individuals, there was a name for them as well, that you're taking advantage of, who you're stealing money from. They want to play with stars. They want to play with celebrities. And the allegation is that everybody else at the table, including presumably Chauncey Billups, knew exactly the scam that was taking place there, which I thought raised it to another level that was beyond ordinarily. I don't care what the high stakes poker games, it's not any of my business. It's your money. I don't care. But this seemed to elevate the story to another place. Now, Garnett in 2019 obviously was not playing any longer. Where does that enter into it? Less the NBA's purview at that point. And what did he know about those games? And were those also illicit games that were rigged? There's a lot that I still don't know and would like to know regarding the Garnett story. Quick text before we get to a talking point. Dan, isn't the Harbaugh comparison weak? What playoff success has he had with the Chargers? He beat us at home on a short week. I'm not defending anyone, but past results are a promise of future results. That's Dan and Owatonna. Dan, I don't know how closely you follow Jim Harbaugh, but Jim Harbaugh has already gotten to a Super Bowl as a National Football League head coach. In fact, I think, didn't he also have a year? I think his first year when he went to the Niners, he took them, I want to say, to the NFC title game that ultimately lost to his brother in a Super Bowl, right? He's also won a national championship in college football. Now we can talk about, what we know regarding the stolen signals. That's a fair part of the conversation. I don't think there's been any allegations in that regard when he was a pro coach. So please, you're not gonna give yourself much of a chance to win the debate if you're pretending that the Harbaugh comparison is weak. And I'm not even here to say that the Vikings would have been better off hiring him. I understand the sentiment of the texter who sent it in, though. At a time like this, there's vulnerability right now. And look, Harbaugh underachieved, I think, last year in the postseason. But he's got great playoff equity. KOC, for whatever you think of him, has zero playoff equity at this point. So, no, you really don't want to go too far in suggesting that the Harbaugh comparison is weak, as if Harbaugh, because he didn't do all that well in the postseason last year, has every bit as much explaining to do in that regard, or establishing to do, as KOC does. All right, how about a talking point? What's the next one? How about this is going to annoy the Wentz haters. I'll admit that. But this one is called the pass protection that wasn't.
Carson Wentz claps for the ball and he gets it. Goes back to pass, and now he is sacked back at the 8-yard line. Several Chargers were in the mix on this 8-yard loss. Justin Eboigbe, he was one of them, and their leading sacker, Tuli Tuipulotu, might have his 6th sack, but nevertheless, Carson has been sacked, and now we're punting. 1st and 10 from the Chargers 44. Wentz out of the shotgun, back to pass on a deep drop, steps up, hit, and he is sacked by Odafe Oweh, 5th year from Penn State. That'll be a loss of 1. And that's the 2nd sack this season for Odafe Oweh, playing in his 3rd game with the LA Chargers. They had some pass rushing problems, so they made a trade. And Carson Wentz back to pass. And before he could even look up to throw it down the field, he was sacked again. 3rd time he's been sacked, and that sack is a loss of 7 yards, and it goes the way of Justin Eboigbe, 2nd sack this game for that young man.
Well, it's the timing is off, Paul. I mean, Wentz is taking a short drop. He gets to the top of his drop. He's looking out to his receivers who are just starting to get in their breaks. So he's setting up a little bit too early, or the routes are developing a little bit too late, because he sets up and he's just waiting to throw the football, and he doesn't have any time because the pressure is getting right to him. So what I'm seeing is just the timing of this whole operation is off right now. And they got, whether or not you start getting him on the move or do whatever you can to get him back, because as soon as Wentz sets up in the pocket, it's just collapsing right on his lap.
Yeah, he had zero protection. I had somebody text earlier say, well, Dan, it's funny. You're conveniently forgetting how screwed up the offensive line was when J.J. McCarthy played. And, of course, the dirty little secret about that is that if you do any research on what was taking place in those games, a big aspect, an important part of what went wrong then was McCarthy was statistically, demonstrably, this is just fact, it's not speculation, was holding on to the ball longer than any quarterback in football. Now, was he facing significant pressure? Yes. But it was the combination of vulnerability in the offensive line and his stubbornness about holding on to the ball that contributed to several of the sacks that were endured back then. In fact, if you recall, when Wentz started playing, what did KOC say? Well, I think what JJ is getting a chance to see is, getting rid of the ball a little bit quicker, processing things a little bit quicker, how that can be helpful. Now, again, Wentz is done. He's not going to start the rest of this season, barring injury. He has come back to the pack, as we've said. It's time for JJ to play. But if you conveniently leave out what again, analytically is demonstrably provable about one of the mistakes that contributed to the problem when McCarthy was playing, then I can't really take your position seriously. If you leave that out, because that also contributed to a number of the sacks that he endured. Now, here's what's interesting. Text that came in a while ago, about 4:57, you're going to feed young JJ to the Lions in their own den? You're setting the kid up to get slaughtered. Well, he might be right. But to that I say, it's what the McBobos have been clamoring for. You can't wait like there's the perfect week. Like, who are we playing the week after that? Is it the Ravens?
Yes.
Now, again, the Ravens defensively are not as good. There's no question about that. But if JJ's the guy and Wentz has clearly played inconsistently enough to be demoted back to being the backup, then you can't keep waiting. You got to put him out there. And by the way, maybe he'll strike lightning in a bottle from the very beginning. Again, people tend to believe and read and listen to what they want to. I endorse the decision to grab J.J. McCarthy in the draft. I still think he's got a chance to be very good. I was admittedly a little more unsettled by what I saw than I thought I would be for those 2 games, but 2 games is obviously not enough to make any kind of firm, final conclusions on him. But I'm all on board for that. But what the McBobos have left out over and over again is your guy hasn't been healthy enough to play. So in the interim, you have to do what the Vikings did. Play Carson Wentz, hope you get the best out of him. And at times they got, given all the challenges he was dealing with, got some decent play. Other times, not so much. He ends up showing up as, probably a career backup. That's probably where he's at this point. But there's been nothing to debate in that until your guy becomes an Iron Man and is able to stay upright for more than 15 minutes, none of the rest of this is going to matter. He's got to stay healthy. He's got to get healthy, and he's got to stay healthy enough to play more than 15 minutes. That's the next step, and that's on him right now because he missed all of last season, and he's missed all but 2 games this season, and was clearly not going to even be considered an option against the Chargers, who, by the way, looked quite beatable. I was told by all the Vikings people before this game started, even though it was, a quick turnaround after the Sunday loss to the Eagles. Lavelle E. Neal III. Questions for him? Did I see the note that Torrey Hunter was not interested in interviewing for the Twins managerial position? Can he confirm or deny that? He also had, I think, the first conversation with Rocco. We'll talk to him about that. We'll get his reaction to the Vikings game last night. Is he still confident that the Chicago Bears are going to stay ahead of the Vikings, the last place Vikings in the NFC North standings? And maybe even a little Gopher, Iowa conversation. Stay tuned.
home opener this Sunday with meat sauce. Lucky. Join Sauce at Kieran's Irish Pub 3 to 5 p.m. for a Sunday Bucket Slam. Enjoy specials of Kona and Michelob Ultra buckets and register for your chance to win signed Timberwolves prizes. Full details now. KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Lavelle is with us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline, Friday regular. Did I see you live tweeting from a hockey game earlier? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. The Lee and Penny Anderson Arena at the University of St. Thomas had its first ever event today, and it was a game between the Tommies and Providence at 2 o'clock, and the men are playing at 7. So I'm here for the first night of action here in the history of St. Thomas's new arena.
Was it emotional?
Well, your guy, guess who dropped the ceremonial first puck, which I wasn't warned about? Your guy did it.
Who?
Kevin Gorg.
Gorg? Is that right? Is he in the St. Thomas Mafia?
He was the first coach in Tommy women's hockey history.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Well, I'm glad you're there because, I mean, it's the one college program around here that just never gets much exposure. And they just can't ever seem to get anybody to write about them. So I'm glad you were there to kind of, chronicle the moment.
But I think it's going to change with hockey because this arena is going to draw recruits. Mm-hmm. And the women's program actually popped up in the top 25 for the first time ever this week at 13. And, of course, they promptly go out and lose today, lost 7-6 in overtime. Ooh. It was an incredibly crazy game. They were down 5-2 in the third period and proceeded to score four goals to take a 6-5 lead. Providence scores with 31 seconds left to force overtime, and then they win it in overtime.
Man.
It was nuts.
That is crazy. That's outstanding. I actually have a baseball question that I've saved. This is from Ed in St. Paul. Will you ask Lavelle about the San Francisco Giants' unprecedented hire of Tony Vitello as their next field manager? Comes from the University of Tennessee, powerhouse college baseball, no prior playing or coaching experience in the pros. He's the first ever to make the direct leap from college to Major League Baseball. Will it work? He says, who knows? He's fiery in your face. That might work in college, but we'll see if it translates to a big league clubhouse. Another analytical and sabermetric hire. I'm kind of fascinated by this question, too. What do you think? What are you hearing?
I think all kinds of managers are hired, and all kinds of managers from different backgrounds, whether they're a former player or just only a coach who have never played the game or a veteran guy or a first-timer. They all get hired, and some thrive, and many get fired. In the last 10 years, we're starting to see some college folks get into the mix here. The Twins hired Wes Johnson to be their pitching coach.
That's true.
And Wes, had a decent run here. That's when the Twins decided to go, we're embracing analytics, and Wes was all about that. So he was there on the ground floor of that. Now, I believe he's the head coach of Georgia.
Oh.
I think he went to LSU to be a pitching coach. I think he either went to Arkansas or Georgia to be the head coach. So he's the head coach there. Pat Murphy was a successful college coach that ended up being on the Brewers staff for a few years, and now he was given the managerial leash when Craig Counsell got hired by the Cubs. And the Brewers had a great regular season. They had the best record in baseball, I believe, until they ran into the Dodgers in the second round of the postseason, right. So I think we were headed in this direction that one day a college person was going to be hired to be a manager. And it looks like Vitello is going to be that guy. And I'm curious to see how much, what his salary is. I don't know if the story has that in there, because he was making $5 million a year at Tennessee, I believe, before the Giants contacted him.
Good money.
But I'm fascinated. The Giants have gone outside the box a couple of times. After Bruce Bochy left, they tried to go with Gabe Kapler, Mr. Analytics himself. That didn't work out. And probably Bob Melvin. That didn't work out, and now they're going in another direction.
Outstanding. By the way, is the story true? Did I read somewhere that the Twins did contact Torrey Hunter, and he did not want to interview for the manager job here?
I checked on that this morning. I was told hell, I'll tell you, Tori told me it's false. That's not true. There's been no conversation.
Interesting.
Someone with the Twins told me it was false as well.
Okay.
So,
That's
I don't
good
know
to
if
check.
it still could be at this point. I didn't get clarification exactly why there hasn't been contact.
Okay.
But he has definitely not turned down offer to interview.
Did you sense that he would be interested or not so much? Can you tell?
I think he'd like to have a conversation.
Okay.
He did interview with the Angels,
right?
Before he decide to
Suzuki
to hire Kurt Suzuki. So I'm guessing he's thinking about it. And like I said, I'm curious how that would work given his demands on him outside the game with his businesses. But he's been a special assistant for the last couple of years with the Angels, and he's been in their dugout. So maybe that has got the juices flowing here. So we'll see. I got a feeling that like a week from now, we'll know who the next Twins manager is going to be. I think it's going to come down that quickly.
You think it's going to come down? When did you say? Pretty quickly?
I think a week from now we may know who it is. I think it could be announced within a week. I think the Twins want to get this done sooner than later, especially when there's multiple job openings in the league. So, and last time when they hired Rocco, it was in between games 2 and 3 of the World Series. So I'm looking at Sunday, which is an off day, and Thursday, which is an off day, as possibilities maybe of announcement.
You had a nice conversation with Rocco, I think the first time he has spoken publicly since the dismissal. What was the vibe? What did you get out of, what did you take out of your conversation with the Dalai Lama?
I felt like I was talking to a very comfortable, content man at the time. He wasn't bitter. He didn't have an axe to grind. He didn't want to badmouth the organization. He's really happy being able to be a dad with his 3 kids now, just spend time with his family and kind of ease into things. So I'm sensing that he's going to take a year off. It also helps, Dan, that since the Twins picked up his option for 2026, he's getting paid to not do anything.
It's a beautiful thing. Sure. What's the hurry?
No, there's no hurry. So I think he's going to ease into it. And I got the sense that he could have had opportunities to interview for managerial jobs if he wanted to, but he opted not to. So I think he's just going to wait a year and kind of ease into things and pick the right situation to be in.
I never thought we'd talk this much baseball, but I think this stuff is actually relevant. Let's talk about Ohtani's night. I mean, I think the game's getting a little silly about, well, was this the greatest moment in baseball history or even sports history? I don't know, but it's got to be right there with pretty much all of them. So what was your reaction to it? Were you watching it live? And are we seeing something that we've just never seen before and are likely to never see again?
I think it's something we may never see again because there's been enough time for another Ohtani to emerge, and that person has not presented himself as it. There hasn't been someone who's tried to hit and pitch at a high level like he has. There are a couple of guys that were drafted out of college years ago who had that type of potential, but it didn't work out. It's working out with Ohtani at a ridiculous rate. Where was I? I was covering an event, so I wasn't able to watch that game, and I was just getting updates. I think I was at the Wild game. I think that's what it was. And I was getting updates on him hitting home runs and striking out 10 over 6 innings. And my jaw was dropping in the press box at all this. And I'm telling the other writers this, and they couldn't believe it. I mean, once again, we may be seeing stuff that may not happen in baseball again. The guy striking out 10 and going deep 3 times, that's just unbelievable, unremarkable. And I talked to Roy Smalley about Ohtani, and Roy just marvels at this guy's weight shifting and how he's able to get the pitches all over the plate. And he will expand his strike zone and still make a deadly contact, not just get the bat on the ball, contact to obliterate baseball. And there may be not another hitter like him in terms of the whole power pitching combination.
Are the Vikings in serious and deep trouble?
Absolutely. They're not playing well. In addition to being injured, which every team in the NFL is, we've had this conversation before. They're not playing well. You know, the penalties, that's lack of discipline, and that's on the individual as well as the coaching staff. Carson Wentz, I'll give him credit for gutting it out on Thursday, but there's a reason why he wasn't signed by a team when the Vikings signed him, At the most important position on the field, the Vikings were messing with a guy who's probably ranked like 35th or 36th among, capable quarterbacks, man. And I think they got what they paid for in there. I don't know if you saw me. I just tweeted you. I didn't tweet any words or messages. I just tweeted your handle as soon as the first 3rd and 1 came, and they put Justin Jefferson in the backfield
right.
and decided to throw the ball out of that formation. Yes. I said, Dan's got to be going apoplectic now. So there's coaching involved in this too. So this is like a souffle of untasty flavors that's leading to a horrible souffle that just needs to be thrown out and restarted from scratch, man.
There's a bunch. There's no doubt. And I thought it was so thorough yesterday as a total system failure, to quote your one of the poll ads from back in the day, that I didn't make that big of a deal of the ground decisions not because I didn't think it was legitimate, that it was an illegitimate subject, but it just felt like, well, when you're beaten that way, what was the final? 38-10, and just dominated on all levels. It's hard for me to get too worked up about any one thing, other than a belief that this is about much more than the quarterback, whoever you have there, whether it's Wentz, whether it's McCarthy, whether it's Brosmer, whether it's Joe Montana in his prime, that they got a lot of other issues that are entering into this thing, and they can't blame injuries for all of them, especially along the defensive line of scrimmage.
Well, here's the thing, too. I like to hear Brian Flores' next press conference. They haven't talked about what went haywire with the defense, because I was trying to figure out, why was the middle so open for the passing game? For Justin Herbert, played by Chris Helmsworth and Thor, how was Thor able to just destroy the middle of the secondary like he did yesterday? Time and time again, he was hitting guys. He made that one tight end, Gatsby, was that his last name? He made him look like an all-pro. And I was like, why is this available? Who's missing what? Who's not crashing down? Where's the safety help? It just seems like they're a step behind or just getting out-schemed.
Yeah, it was. They got a lot of work to do, and we obviously know now McCarthy's going to be the QB, and he's going to walk in to quite a challenge the first week, because the Detroit Lions aren't going to feel sorry for anybody, especially the Vikings. They got to play them there. The Lions are clearly one of the best teams in the league again, I think. And, a big part of the story, Lavelle, is, to your point about B-Flow, is we're at a point, if you go back to last year and even this year, the number of good quarterbacks who've just riddled them, and good quarterbacks are tougher to defend, right? But it's just been total. I mean, you lost both games to the Lions last year. Goff was surgical against them. Both games to the Rams. They've got a very good quarterback as well. Look at the quarterbacks you've lost to this year. A-Rod early, and in the last 2 weeks you've lost to Jalen Hurts and to the Chargers guy, Herbert, who's been inconsistent in the postseason, but obviously is very skilled. So sooner or later, your defense has to play at least more representatively against good quarterbacks than they have.
Dan, that this defense is operated at such a high level that, we can understand a letdown, but this is a collapse. This is a collapse. This was the defense which was 2 years ago. KOC was saying after the 3-0 victory over the Raiders, this is a championship defense. They are so far from that now. And maybe some of their personnel decisions have come back to bite them in terms of who they signed to play in this defensive line and the trade of Harrison Phillips.
Yeah, that can't be forgotten. We have talked about the Phillips deal, too. We've not had a lot of time today because it's been pretty Viking-centric to follow up with what we got into yesterday, the breaking news regarding the federal investigation that named 3 current or former NBA-related individuals, whether you're talking about coach in the case of Chauncey Billups after he played, including here, and of course, players as well. So how big Do you believe this is the whole story? Do you believe there's a chance that this is going to get wider and bigger? And how big a challenge do you think this commissioner has in sort of managing this particular crisis?
Well, it depends on what you mean by bigger. I think, what was the headline today? 3 players from Eastern Michigan's basketball team refused to cooperate with an investigation into possible point shaving because they have no more eligibility to lose, so they don't see any point in trying to help. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's popping up everywhere. I think it could get worse. I think more names out of this. All the people in the world, they get wrapped up in this. Chauncey Billups would be the last person I would imagine.
Yeah.
He made $100 million. He made $100 million during his playing career. He doesn't need this unless he's been, burned by business deals and is broke or something. But I was just baffled by this. And if the mafia could get in cahoots with an athlete, that's the thing that people should be afraid about. That somehow these athletes are getting around these type of individuals, and where these temptations or these offers are coming.
Yeah.
So can you stop that anywhere? And we're in a bad spot. We're in such a bad spot because the professional sports has cozied up to gambling institutions for advertising revenue, especially since COVID. Everybody's trying to make all the money they lost, make up all the money they lost. And so you see signage all over the place. We got a hockey arena called Grand Casino Arena. That's not going to end anytime soon here.
No.
The passing of the gambling bill in 2018 that allowed states to have their own wagering like Vegas, that adds another layer because you got these stupid prop bets now. Give me Johnny Juzang of the Wolves. You could bet if he's going to have more than 8 minutes of playing time and score more than three points and pull down 4 rebounds.
Exactly.
It gets that crazy where you may have like the 14th man on a bench who's not making as much as the stars. Although, hell, in the NBA, anybody who's on the bench is making a couple $1 million, I would imagine. But they could actually, be influenced and say, "Hey, man, I'm gonna act like I had a concussion today. See if I want to take the under on my prop bets," which has happened. So I don't know how the NBA can guard against this. I don't know how much help and assistance they could provide. Does every team need to have a gambling watchdog on part of the organization to make sure these players aren't falling into these traps? This is scary, and at the root of all this is now, can you sit at an NBA game and watch it and wonder, without wondering, that someone's on the take?
So, all fair. I think it's pretty obvious that as difficult and challenging as this would be, the prop bet has to go. And when I say that, I'm aware that, well, even if that's possible, and by the way, a number of states have eliminated the prop bet when it comes to college players. Not pros, but college players. But
I like that.
I think, I'll be honest, until you can, here's the problem. If you eliminate it in the real sense, in terms of what the NBA, NFL, all these major sports are willing to get in bed with these sports betting services, also agree to it. We all know what'll happen. The prop bet won't go away. The prop bet will go underground and will go to those illegal places. But I would still maintain that if you're a league that has made the decision that there's no turning back, genie's out of the bottle, we're cozying up to these legal services, you at least have to try to eliminate or work towards negotiating an elimination of the prop bet. Because as you know, that's the game changer. You're still going to have the occasional players who tank a game for a team, right? But that's harder to do and less likely than an easy prop bet. It came up even in baseball this year, right? I mean, you do a prop bet on, and who was the pitcher who was being investigated?
I forgot that. It was 2 pitchers for Cleveland. One was Emmanuel Clase.
Yes, that's right.
Apparently, there was a prop bet on this. His first pitch is going to be a ball or a strike or something like that.
Exactly.
And he got pulled into that. So it's happening in baseball, too, which is a really dangerous sport because if you can get to a pitcher who has the ball,
right,
all kinds of stuff could be manipulated.
There's no question. Yeah, it's never ending. So it's daunting. It's extremely daunting. But clearly the status quo can't hold. There's going to have to be big time leadership and creativity when it comes to trying to ride herd over it. And I'll be honest with you, I don't have that much faith in the current NBA commissioner. I would have in David Stern if he was still running it. Adam Silver has tended to not impress me when it comes to these sorts of crises.
I've been trying to figure out what type of column can I write on the subject. And I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
And I think if I started somewhere, I end up in a different place, too.
That's it. It is. It's very complicated. And look, a couple people are texting, and we got into this yesterday. I don't think you can make it. The logical question is, hey, guys, with $100 million contracts, $50,000 here, $25,000 there is going to be the difference. Why would you even bother? Why would you risk so much? But I think you know the answer to that question. It's the rush. I heard Brian Scalabrine talk about this earlier today. He said, "Man, I'm just telling you, there's guys who will get more excited about what they view as a free $25,000 that they didn't think was coming than their contract. It's psychological. It's illogical, but there's a psychology to it and a rush to it that does explain why people might be willing to risk so much. Now, you could say, would Billups risk that much when we're talking about the poker table stuff? Because that doesn't even feel like the same kind of a rush. Well, it depends. Maybe he's got some people that he got compromised by. Who knows where it ends in that regard? But I don't think, Lavelle, the average Rube cares about these high-level poker games. I think
I know
what elevates the story is if the games are fraudulent and Chauncey Billups and others, the celebrities, know that easy marks are being taken advantage of. It's a rigged game, and you got the Gambino family involved, among others. Then that's a problem, right? That's a significant problem.
No doubt. But I think people in general like action, regardless of socioeconomic status.
No question.
They like the action. I was at my local watering hole watching the Vikings get trounced yesterday, and there's a guy midway through the second quarter. He's paying his tab. I'm like, so why are you leaving? It's just the middle of the second quarter. He was like, I'm down $300 in pull tabs. So I think everybody differently, but I think people get the favor.
They do. 100% true. Sunday column then is what?
A Sunday column, actually, the Loons are playing Monday, so I did a Loons column for Sunday's 3-2 pitch, and my St. Thomas piece is running tomorrow.
Nice.
So I've been busy this week. This is my fourth column.
That's good. That's good. It's better to be busy. It's always good to be busy. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your St. Thomas experience. We'll talk next week.
All right, thanks, Dan.
Thanks, man. Lavelle E. Neal III, Friday regular. We always appreciate his contributions. I do want to mix in maybe another Vikings talking point and a little bit of Golden Gopher University of Iowa football history as provided by the one and only Dan Barreiro. He's done some nice research, and we'll try to pay that off as well when we come back.
We all remember that one teacher who made a difference, believed in us, challenged us, or just made learning fun. Well, now's your chance to say thank you in a big way with iHeartRadio's Thank a Teacher, powered by Donors Choose. Nominating an outstanding public school teacher who's gone above and beyond for their students to win $5,000 to stock their classroom with whatever they need. Help us say thank you to the educators shaping our future. Nominate your teacher, iHeartRadio.com/teachers.
Gophers, Iowa City tomorrow. That's a 2:30 start. Pre-game show on the Fan will begin at 12:30. Before we get to some talking points, I wanted to mention a nice bit of the Gopher, Iowa football history, especially as it pertains to more calamitous occasions. I believe, you can look this up, I think PJ goes into tomorrow afternoon's game 1-7. Against Iowa. I believe that's the updated number. I think we beat them in 2023, was it? 12-10?
That's what the AI overlords say, 1-7.
Okay. All right, here's the Dan Barreiro Iowa Gopher history, calamity related. goes all the way back to October 23, 1982. Following a 21-16 victory over the Gophers at the Metrodome, Iowa coach Hayden Fry dresses like a farmer in his post-game press conference to throw shade at Minnesota and the media. Gopher coach Joe Salem apparently had called the Hawkeyes a bunch of farmers. Fry was quoted as saying, "All you great Minnesota writers and radio people were talking about us being clods, so I wore my clod clothes." How about this occasion? I was there for this one. November 16, 2002, Iowa fans ripped down the goalposts after the Hawkeyes edged the Gophers 45-21 at the Dome. Pretty sure I was there for that occasion. Wasn't that the occasion where they literally were trying to get one of the goalposts through the one of the revolving doors at the Dome and were unable to do so? November 22, 2008. Final game at the Metrodome. Iowa 55, Gophers 0. Ugh, that's calamitous, is it not? He reminds us, does Dan Minnesota, that was also the game, the infamous occasion when an Iowa fan was busted for engaging in sexual activity in the bathroom. November 16, 2019. Key game of this very successful Gopher season. The game that would have elevated us to a really special season in 2019 as the number 8 ranked team in the country. The Gophers are edged by Iowa 23-19. First time they've been ranked in the top 10 since 1962. That was the game. You win that game, and we would still be talking probably about that season because it was a very good season. But that was the game where they just couldn't finish the damn thing off as the 8th ranked team. November 13, 2020. Down 35-0 to Iowa with 19 seconds left in the game. P.J. Fleck calls a timeout in response, timeout, period. In response, Kirk Ferentz calls 3 timeouts in a row. Here's the quote from the Iowa coach. "They called a timeout to look at what we were doing to reconsider. So we just wanted to make sure we had a good look at what they were doing. No sense taking the timeouts on the bus, right?" You guys have reminded me of that a couple of times over the last 22 years. Figured we'd take Floyd with us and leave the timeouts here. I remember that one well as well. The last spread I saw remains, I think, absurd in this game. I saw Iowa by either 8.5 or 9. See what the updated number is wherever you like to look. I think that's preposterous. And I'm hardly a Gopher apologist. I just don't. We talked about this. Some of the point spreads the Nebraska advantage was, I think, 8 or 9, allegedly going into the last Friday night game a week ago today.
The Hawkeyes favored by 9.5.
9.5. I don't see it. I really don't. Good, I guess, bulletin board material. But that seems. I just don't trust either of these. Several of these Big Ten teams enough to where those point spreads mean or make much sense to me. How about another Vikings talking point? How about the theme of today's talking points started with the pick six that wasn't, the run defense that wasn't. Did we do the pass defense that wasn't? Maybe we do that one right now.
Now you have them in 3rd and long. You cannot. We've struggled with some of these 3rd and long situations. You cannot let them off the hook because if you make them punt, you're still going to have good field position.
It's 3rd and 13. The Vikings' 3rd down defense, 2nd best in the NFL, giving up first downs 30% of the time. The Chargers on 3rd down are 4th best. Something has to give. It's 3rd and 13. Justin Herbert goes out of the shotgun. 4-man rush, straight drop. Herbert throws over the middle, caught first down. Keenan Allen at the 32-yard line. It'll be a connection of 18-ish yards and a first down from Herbert to Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen has just blitzed and burned and scorched the Minnesota Vikings all of his career. Justin Herbert working out of the shotgun. He has Patterson in motion to the right. Herbert back to pass. He'll throw over the middle between the hash marks, and it is caught by Gadsden the second. A leaping Harrison Smith tried to knock it away in front of him, but it's a connection of 13 yards and another first down for these Bolts. Herbert goes under center. Vidal's the tailback. 3 receiving options right. Herbert's looking to pass. Throws over the middle. McConkey is uncovered. He caught it at about the 20-yard line. Flag on the play. Lad McConkey is able to roll ahead to the 17. Unofficially a gain of 15 yards. Pending penalty, and we'll see what Clete Blakeman has to say. 3rd and goal from the 8. Herbert goes back to pass, throws to the end zone, and it's caught for a touchdown for the LA Chargers, and it's Oronde Gadsden the second. 2nd and 10. Herbert with a back to his left out of the shotgun. Fade, right side, end zone caught, touchdown Lad McConkey, who blew by Jeff Okudah like he was tied to a post. Ooh. And the LA Chargers have taken a 20-3 lead on that 27-yard touchdown hit. Herbert now has 15 touchdown passes this year. Lad McConkey has 3 receiving touchdowns. And the Chargers, with this 17-point lead, let's be mindful, they get the ball to begin the second half.
Correct.
Oh, they just ran the same play twice.
Right.
And Okudah didn't lay a finger on Lad McConkey. Didn't even jam him, getting away, force him out wide or anything. McConkey just ran, beat him like a drum. Just ran right around him. That's 3 plays in a row after Okudah.
Ooh, yeah. It was not pleasant for Mr. Okudah, and not pleasant at all for Vikings pass defense, more generally speaking. How about the ground game? The Vikings ground game that wasn't.
2nd and 10. Wentz comes out of the shotgun. He's going to give it to Showtime. Aaron Jones right up the middle, and Derwin James along. It'll be no gain, along with Jamari Caldwell, a 3rd-round rookie from Oregon. Stop him. So, Pete, here we are with a 3rd and long out of the gate. Carson Wentz goes under center, trailing 7-0. It's 1st and 10. Toss right to Jordan Mason. He's smacked shortly after he gets the ball, bumps it out farther right across the 15, and had to do everything he could just to get back to the line of scrimmage or close to it. The Vikings have run 5 times, make it 6, as it's a toss right to Jordan Mason. T.R. Tart blew that thing up, so Mason had to head back to the left. And as he circumnavigated the formation, he did everything he could to get back to the line of scrimmage. In fact, he lost 2 yards.
If you'd like to see more detail regarding the run offense, the ground game that wasn't, I heartily recommend item number 2 in the wise old owl Mark Craig's top 5. I guess you could say, what does he call it? 5 extra points. Headlined, beatdowns happen when you ignore the run. This is one of those rare, boring mismatch NFL games when the embarrassing wow stats keep coming in waves. My favorite, he writes, came early in the 3rd quarter when Harbaugh seemed to dedicate the second half to embarrassing a Vikings team that didn't hire him when it chose Kevin O'Connell in 2022. Chargers opened with 3 straight impose your will runs for 23 yards up the gut when this stat appeared. Chargers have 20 first downs. The Vikings have 24 plays. At that point, the Vikings had run the ball 5 times for 10, with a backup quarterback who was playing injured behind an offensive line, missing both of its starting tackles. Chargers leading rusher had 23 carries for 117 yards. Vikings leading rusher had 2 carries for 16. Defense is terrible, yes, but the Vikings play the opposite of complementary football from the get-go, so the defense was not entirely responsible for the Chargers holding the ball over 39 minutes. Truer words have rarely been spoken or written. Let's come back and wrap up a very controversial edition of the program next here in the Fan.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
And it's brought to you by American Pressure.
I want to thank our outstanding array of guests today. That includes Kevin O'Connell. Well, I mean, he wasn't technically a guest, but we played in its entirety his session with the Media Jackals today on the day after. That was at the start of the program. We also had Ben Gessling at 4:30 and Lavelle at 5:30. I think it'll be a 2-hour edition of Sermons on Sunday. Are you back for it?
I will be.
Outstanding. That's 9 until 11. Obviously, there'll be plenty of reaction to the Gopher game. Have more of a chance maybe to dig into the latest NBA scandal and get to more pro football stuff as well. Tonight, NBA basketball, the Wolves in particular, national TV game against the Lakers on the road. I think Johnny Athletic is tracking them, but that'll be on the Fan later tonight as well as they try to improve the start of the season to 2-0. Texter writes, the most interesting angle to me on the betting scandal is that the sportsbook caught the irregular bet the very next day, and the NBA somehow investigated this and saw nothing there. That is an interesting element to it. The quote from Windhorst out of ESPN.com, Brian Windhorst, getting a lot of attention from yesterday. Direct quote from him, I just want to point something out. The sportsbook caught the irregular betting on Terry Rozier the day it happened, and guess what? The NBA, the Rozier didn't play the rest of the season, and he had faked the injury. So it wasn't because of the injury. The NBA pulled him. That's getting a lot of attention because it does call into question the NBA response, whether the league has been way too laissez-faire from a leadership standpoint. Is there a piece of this that's missing in that the NBA allegedly investigated him and did not follow through with any kind of punishment? Do the feds know something that the league doesn't? The details in the indictment seem to be very damning. Could there be more to the story? I don't know. But it's the league response that I think is going to become a bigger and bigger part of this story moving forward. Like, what did they know? When did they know it? And why did they choose to take the approach they did, which you can argue does come off as we're just trying to hush this up and keep this thing quiet, because now it involves a player who is not a superstar, but a good enough player that it could cause great difficulty if it becomes, we make a bigger issue of it and it becomes public as well. Also want to thank Garzi, another great job on the Vikings Talking Points segment. I think we covered it ultimately, pretty much all of them. And when it's a total system failure, it should be the pick six that wasn't, the ground game that wasn't, the run defense that wasn't, the pass defense that certainly wasn't, the highly touted up-and-comer defensive player who isn't, Dallas Turner. We did not include that talking point, come to think of it. And by the way, we can have time. We certainly will have time to include it on Sunday. You could say, in the grand scheme of things, Dallas Turner isn't the reason that the Vikings lost, but it was such a stupid play. It was such an obvious play. I'm actually shocked that he didn't get thrown out of the game because I was told that it rose to the level where it's the discretion of the ref, the officials, but that they could have thrown him out of the game. And then there was the pass protection that wasn't as well. So what do we think going forward? We think that it is now inevitable. The McBobos wanted the J.J. McCarthy era to start. They've been chomping at the bit. They're anxious. They're ready. You're going to get your wish. There's no longer any question about it. Team is struggling too much to even consider staying with Carson Wentz. He may not be healthy enough to play again the rest of the season, for all we know. You got your wish. It's going to be McCarthy starting against the Detroit Lions on November 2. And from that point forward, unless he struggles and the head coach opens the door to your guy, Brosmer. And then, at that point, all bets will be off. Will they not?
Oh my gosh.
They'll be off at that point. You, meanwhile, are worried your Packers team is going to lose. Maybe we'll talk about that Sunday, too.
Yeah, I'm not confident.
Is the A-Rod revenge factor? That worries you?
It's more
You're a better team than the Steelers.
Yes, but the defense hasn't been able to get off the field against Jacoby Brissett and Flacco twice. So, I'm not but that defense, the Steelers, not as good. They're not very good.
No.
They can move the ball against them.
It could be a high-scoring affair.
I think so.
That's it. Thanks for the help today. Much appreciated. No enough said tonight. We've been preempted by like 22 games. So no Guardsy and me on TV with Lori Fisher. I know you're devastated, but we are scheduled, as far as I know, to return to action next week on Fox 9. Thanks for watching. Thanks indeed for listening. Have a wonderful weekend, and we hope you'll join us Sunday morning at 9.
Did you see the game?
Sorry, KFAN.